This is one of the most powerful tools inside Data Streak. It's called Streak Finder, and it's built to answer questions like which player smashes a prop when a certain teammate is out of the lineup. Also, who's quietly on a real streak and not just a 2-game heater. And which of these streaks are strong enough to build slips around. In a few seconds, I'm gonna hop over to my screen and show you how you can use this to find hidden gem props, and how to filter by our internal scores so you're not guessing which runs are real. Now let's hop inside and I'll show you how it works. All right, so I'm inside Streak Finder. I'm gonna break it down and show you how this works. So I wanted a way, there are hundreds of players in any given sport, and today we're looking at the NBA. We have this for every section, but there are hundreds of players, and how do we sift all that data down and find players that are going to, or historically have performed well in the spot they're in for that day. So there are some players that play really well at home. There are actually some players that play better on the road than at home. So we wanted to filter all that down. Also, obviously we want to check how they play versus the opponent that they're playing that day, and not just how they play versus that opponent, but that specific stadium or situation they're in. Like how have they played on the road versus that opponent? How well have they played at home versus that opponent? And also, we've got the defensive rankings here as well. And for those, they are specific to the position, how that team defends that specific position. So a team could give up tons of 3-pointers, but maybe to shooting guards or small forwards, they've got a really good defender, so they don't give up a lot of 3-pointers to that specific position. So it's important that we look at all of that, and basically we gather all that together and give them a score. We also track, are they on a front end or a back end of a back-to-back, because that matters, especially if a player is questionable. We'll have injury tags as well on here, but if a player is injured on the front end of a back-to-back, that might be a good under to play, because they might want to limit their minutes if they've been dealing with injuries and have a game the next day. Or if they're on a back end of a back-to-back, we factor in fatigue to this, so they might be a little more tired for that specific game or matchup. And we've tested this algorithm over thousands of games and players for sample sizes, so we're able to actually have clear numbers on how this is doing. So last I checked, it was hitting at about 66.8%, so a very high hit rate. And so I'm going to go through and show you how it works, but some days it might be heavier on unders, and that's by design. I know most people like playing overs. Majority of people like playing overs, but trust me, unders are good for you. It's taken me almost 10 years to start liking unders. But when you play them, you'll notice, the unders are pretty solid. And the reason is I'm not going to change the algorithm. We're not going to change this algorithm just because more people like overs. There are plenty of overs that show up in here. There are a lot of unders that show up in here. But we wanted to have the best overall algorithm, and so that's what we did with this. So I'm going to be going over players. We also have this same for teams. So you can filter over to teams, same basic concept. But right here we can change stat type. We've got the combo stats as well, so you can switch to whatever you want. Look at whatever stats that you want, points, rebounds, assists, points, rebounds. You have points on as its own, rebounds, all that. You can do overs and unders. I was on unders here, so I'll flip over to show both overs and unders. You can also sort by 5 games, 10 games, 15, 20. You can look at the full season. We can sort by hit rate, so 60% up to 100% hit rate. Also location, we can just look at home games, just look at away games. I know certain people only like playing players when they're at home, which is fair, but there are a lot of players that play well on the road, so that's something to look at as well. Right now I have it set to tight odds, but we can do alternative lines to get more lines on here for alternative line parlays. We can also do plus money, tight odds. I like going to tight odds if you're going to look at straight plays. Standard range, we got minus 200 to plus 200. And you can also type in, let's say I want to do minus 400 to plus 150. Oops, let's do 150. You don't even have to put the plus. Enter it in, and then it'll pull all the players within those odds ranges. Also, lineup, we can do just players with insights. So if we switch to insights, it's going to show, for example, Miles Bridges without PJ Hall in the lineup. He's 22 of 40 on this prop. So we're looking at how these players perform with specific players out of the lineup for that day that happen to be out of the lineup. So we can also go by opponent rank, and we can do weak opponent. So if you're playing overs, you might obviously want an easier matchup. If you're playing unders, you might want to go to the strong filter on the top 10 teams. And again, these rankings, so you might have 5 different players showing on here, all the same team, but they're going to have different rankings of their opponent, because these are specific to how that team they're playing defends that exact position for that exact stat. So it's very specific, because if we looked at a team that gives up a ton of threes, they might have an absolute lockdown defender at one position that doesn't give up a lot of threes, if that's what we're looking at, or a lot of points. So we need to look at that specific spot that player's in order to get the best data for this. Also, we can look at head-to-head history. We can exclude bad head-to-head history. So players with bad head-to-head history, we just take out. Good head-to-head history, we can click that on, and we are only seeing players that have performed well in the spot they're in versus this team. Also quality, we can sort by quality score, which we're sorted by now. We can do hit rate, head-to-head at that location, best payout first, easiest matchup first, hardest matchup first. We can do that. You can also hide injured players if you want to. They're usually hidden. And then you can also select by team if you wanted to target a certain team, or for single game or same game parlays, you can do that as well. So if I'm looking at this, let's say I want to set it to tight odds, I want to do a straight play, and I'm looking at both overs and unders. So what I see here is Coby White has 17.5 points, rebounds, assists, so combo stat. He's playing Miami in their 25th versus point guards versus that combo stat, so points, rebounds, assists. Also, head-to-head at home, he is 9 of 9, so he's played them at home, and he's hit it every single game, so that's pretty good as well. And then we can see here, there's going to be a green dot next to whatever situation they're in. So right here, he's playing at home, so we know that he's got a home game, and we don't have to go around looking for that. Also, if we want to verify this, we can always click on, so we see he's head-to-head at home versus Miami. He's 9 of 9, so we can click on the player chart. It's going to take us right to this stat. So as we see, he's hit this pretty consistently. We can sort by home, we can sort by road, we can sort by head-to-head versus Miami, but we are specifically looking at this game. He's at home, so we want it home versus Miami. And so right here we have it. He's hit it 9 straight games, so we can see how he did. There's also a little see 20M that shows how many minutes he played in each game, so you can see how many minutes they played in the game. But this tool is super helpful for both teams and players to find the best, filter down the board with hundreds of players and really break it down on who's in the best spot. We have the quality scores here, and those are our internal scores. So what those scores do is take everything we're looking at, how they've been recently, how they've been versus that team, what ranking are they facing, what was that team, how does that team defend that specific stat. We're looking at also fatigue. You'll see here, actually they're in this specific spot, they've coming off days, but if they're on the front end or a back end of a back-to-back, it'll say that. So for example, if a player is questionable, it will show that they're questionable on here. And if they're on the front end of a back-to-back, that might be a good over spot. That's one of my favorite over spots, because they're dealing with an injury. They've got a game the next day. The coach probably isn't going to want to play them their maximum amount of minutes for that day. Also, on the back end of a back-to-back, we factor in fatigue to this score as well. So they might be a little more tired. We also factor in travel. How far did they travel? How many time zones? Did they change time zones? If so, was it an hour change, a 3-hour change? That's all stuff we want to track. And then you'll notice some players with cold tabs or hot tabs. Now, what that means is Coby White is cold right now, and that is because he's missed this stat recently. So if we see here, 3 out of the last 4 he's missed. So whenever we see that, the hot or cold, you just know that if it's cold, that maybe he's going through something or having a tough stretch, so maybe it's not something you want to target. Or if they're hot, that means that they've hit this line either 2 straight or 3 of the last 4. So that way you can see their recent form the last few games. And again, if you want to check these out, you just click on the chart and you can see their charts and see everything from there. And one last thing too that I wanted to mention is we also have like return badges. And you'll see this player is returning from injury. So you might have a player that's scored, looks good, has maybe even 100% hit rate. If they have the return badge, that means they're coming off injury. So their limits might be limited. So that might be something you want to look at. So if you see that return badge, just know they're coming back from injury, could have limited minutes, and that could affect things. If you want to play around with this yourself, just hit the link in the description. Create a Data Streak account and start with the free hit rate sheet. Once you're inside, you'll see the full platform along with Streak Finder and all the other tools that I've been talking about in these videos.